Dear church, let's talk about coaching and life with David Redding. Hello, and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley. I'm excited to have Coach Redding with us. David Redding is the head men's and women's tennis coach at Harding University. I came across Coach Redding. I don't know, Coach. It was several years ago. I had a son that played tennis at Wiley in Abilene, and we came up for a soccer tournament and came over and met you. My son, was going to come to Harding and thought maybe, talk to Coach about playing a little tennis there. And you were so gracious to him, so kind. Of course, blows out both knees, and that if there was any hope of playing, that was gone pretty quickly. But I always appreciated how well you treated us and how good you were to Zane. And I'm excited to have you on today to talk about coaching and life in general. Before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on so our viewers can kind of get to know you a little bit.
Thanks, Chris. It's good to be with you. I had a very circular way to get to Harding. I was born in Searcy. When my dad was in college here, he played basketball in 60 and 61, and I was born here about 2 weeks before he graduated. And so got to know the city a little bit in my first 2 weeks of life, and then we moved away, and I came back to Harding as a student in 1979, played tennis, had 4 great years at Harding, got married, moved to Dallas, where I spent the next 33 years of my life as a director of tennis. My wife and I raised 3 daughters, and out of the blue, in the fall of 2015, I get a call from the athletic director asking if I would have any desire to come back and be the men's and women's tennis coach at Harding. And it was a God thing because I had just turned in my retirement notice 6 days before at the country club.
Wow.
I had been the director of tennis at for 28 years and was ready to do something different at the end of my life, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And we thought about moving to Hot Springs Village and starting a Pickle Ball program there and helping with the tennis program. But this call came out of the blue, and my wife and I both to this day say it was a total God thing. And it has changed our lives in being at Harding and working with college age young men and women.
That's a really neat story. You kind of come full circle. And that's something I wanted to point out, because I know that you, being the humble guy, won't say this, but you're quite the accomplished pickleball player too. Talk a little bit about that and how that has kind of put you on the map, right?
Well, I got started in pickleball in 2013 before it was a thing, and was really the first tennis pro in the Dallas area to bring pickleball to my club. And a lot of the tennis pros at the time didn't embrace pickleball, thought it was beneath them. But I realized as an aging tennis player that I couldn't run around a tennis court near as well as I could gimp around a pickleball court. And so I got into pickleball, and for about 2 years before I came to Harding, traveled the country playing tournaments, pickleball tournaments. And it was before it was as big as it is now. And so I was fortunate to win a couple of national championships in my age category when I was 50 and 55, and some senior championships. And I'm not playing as much now, but I am teaching some pickleball. In fact, just had 4 ladies from Colorado come for a week's camp here. We have a pickleball court at our house that we built. And in January, I'm going to Costa Rica to teach a camp and take a group of 16 ladies and men to Costa Rica. So I still dabble in pickleball. I'm not as competitive right now because I don't have the time to train, but pickleball has worked its way up into my life to be just about on the same level as tennis.
Yeah, that's really cool. We have started a pickleball kind of league, I guess you could say, here at church. And so on every other Tuesday night, we play up here at the building. We got 3 courts in our gym and love playing. We have the home builders, which is kind of our younger adults, and then made the youth and young adults come up here and play. Man, it's so much fun. So you kind of got ahead of the game, and you were kind of a revolutionary saying, hey, this is going to take off. And sure enough, it did. So that's pretty cool.
I think pickleball is the greatest game ever invented by God. There's so many good things about it, from the exercise, from the bringing people together, from keeping people healthy. I feel like it's one of the things in life that can save our civilization.
Yeah, there you go. Pickleball is going to save the world. I love it. Hey, Coach, one of the things that I like to do on this podcast, because of my athletic history, being a coach before I got into ministry, is anytime I can, I like to combine these two loves, my passion for sports, my passion for Christ, and then, of course, getting guys like you on to where we can talk about both is just big for me. So I appreciate that and you taking the time. Talk a little bit about the season coming up. I know y'all are, coming up on the spring season very soon. What's the outlook? What are you expecting? I know you've had a lot of success there so far.
Well, I coach both the men's and the women's team, two separate teams. I have large teams. When I first came in 2016, I had 7 men and 7 women. You need 6 to compete. And going into this coming season, I've got 12 men and 12 women. I just can't say no. I can't turn people away because tennis is such a big part of my life. But we are expecting, I'll start with the men's first, Chris. We have what's called in the NCAA the non-competitive season in the fall, which is basically tournament season. Mm-hmm. We play a few tournaments. And fortunately, my top doubles team was selected. They earned their way to the D2 National Championships by being the runner-up in our regional ITA. And they made it all the way to the finals at the ITA Cup. So they are ending this year, the fall season, as the number 2 team in the nation in doubles. And last year, I had 2 players that made it to the ITA Cup in singles. One of them didn't come back this fall because he had double hip surgery, and he's supposed to be here in the spring. And the other one played doubles this year and got to the finals. And then I'm bringing in a player. I just signed somebody about a week and a half ago from Spain who played at another D2 school this fall that's in the top 50 in the country in singles. And so I've got to tell you that I think that we're going to have the strongest men's team that Harding has ever sent to the courts this spring. If we stay healthy, I think we can be a top national team. Having said that, that puts a lot of pressure on us, but I think I have the type of guys that can handle that pressure.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I know you're looking forward to that. How about on the girls' side? You feel confident about them too?
On the girls' side, we won our conference in 21 and 22, going undefeated during the regular season. And 2 of the girls that are seniors this year have both been injured over the last year. One broke her ankle, one had back surgery. I'm not sure if the one who broke her ankle will be back this spring. The one with back surgery played just doubles in the fall. She missed all of last spring. If they can be healthy, we're going to be a factor in our conference. I've got some new girls in that are strong, but they're green, they're young. And so we're going to see. I think everybody's excited to see what we can do this spring. And if somebody can't play, like I said, I've got 12 players, we'll put somebody else in. But I'm very excited, very optimistic about what both men's and women's team can do this coming spring. Yeah.
Well, I'll be following, and I hope others will as well, because that sounds really exciting. Tell me a little bit about is it difficult to recruit to Harding? Are you looking for just really good tennis players, or are you looking for character guys and girls, or both? I mean, are you thinking I'll just get the best tennis players I can get, and then I will hopefully instill faith in them when they get here? I mean, what is the approach when you go to recruit?
Well, the first question you ask, is it hard to get student athletes to Harding? And I would say yes and no. Obviously, I want to get the best tennis players possible. The conference, the region that we compete in, I know what level of players we have to get to be able to compete and to be able to have a chance to play for championships. But at the same time, it's not just about the tennis level. I want to recruit players of high character. And so I don't have a budget to be able to travel all over the states and all over the world. In fact, our teams are very international in nature. We have the 12 guys that I have on the men's side, 8 are international players and 4 are Americans. And on the women's side, 7 are international players and 5 are Americans. And so I do a lot of recruiting on the internet and have to go through a lot of videos, read a lot of emails, and do a lot of FaceTime calls. I try to get their parents involved. If I see that a player may have a chance to play for us or want to play for us, I'll try to get the parents involved on a call so that I can assess how they've been brought up and get to know a little bit more about them. So there's a lot of things I look for. There's not just 1 or 2 things. In fact, I had a former student back when I was in Dallas that has written a book, and he asked me to write a chapter on things that college tennis coaches look for in a prospect. And so I have a list of about 15 things that I look at, and certainly one player can't embody all 15, but those are little tidbits of things that I look for when I'm recruiting.
Yeah. What is your, if you don't mind telling us, what is your pitch when you're pitching to a player that Harding would be the best possible place for them to pursue an academic and tennis career? What do you tell them? What is your big pitch?
Well, I don't have one big pitch, but if I did, I try to emphasize the uniqueness of Harding. They are going to get a great education. They're going to be able to compete at a very high level, tennis-wise, and they're going to get to explore their spiritual side. A lot of the international kids that I talk to don't necessarily have a background in the Bible or Christianity. And so I basically will try to tell them at first and then show them through my interaction with them that a life with God is much better than a life without God. And that's kind of my start. That's my starting point with those that don't really know much about Harding itself and what we embody at Harding. And so that's kind of my start. I don't mind recruiting players that let's say don't have a faith to begin with, because I know that this is one of their best chances to be around coaches and other players and professors and faculty that will pour into them. And so, but like I said, I want to get players and student athletes of high character and that are open to all things. I've had conversations with some student athletes that what Harding represents turns them off. And so I know right away that, this is not the school for them. And I'll tell them, this is probably not the school for you. There are some that are open. There are some that embrace that, especially parents that may embrace that. And so, that's normally a starting point with somebody who is on my radar screen that may not have a faith or may not know much about the Bible or Christianity in general.
Yeah, and I think I could see how someone listening to this podcast maybe is curious to say, as a coach at a Christian school, are you only recruiting Christians, or are you using this as a platform to go into all the world and and make disciples of all the nations? Because I can say it sounds like it's it's kind of a little of both. Is that you're looking for that high character kid, but also you feel like that Harding's going to sell itself on the faith side when they come there. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And I'm happy to say that of all the players that I've recruited, and I've been here now, the end of this month will end my 8th year. I started in the middle of the season of 2015-16. I started in January of 16, and I have not had one player transfer to another school to play tennis. All the players that have come here have embraced Harding. Maybe a few have tolerated it, but they haven't wanted to leave to go play tennis somewhere else. I've been able to keep the players that I've recruited. So, and then a lot of them have talked with friends back from their own country when I'm looking to recruit other players. Sometimes word of mouth from other prospective student athletes goes a long way. And so they have been willing to talk with other students from other countries about their experiences here at Harding. And that has helped recruit players as well.
Yeah, it just kind of stacks on top of itself. That's, and becomes its own advertising. That's a neat thing. Talk about, I always say as a coach, you're trying to establish a culture. And I think as a preacher, you're doing the same thing. I think those things mirror each other when you're trying to establish a culture. Talk about when you're trying to establish a culture or have established a culture there at Harding, what are some of your core values? It may go back to those 15 things you listed a while ago, but what are some of the core teachings that you want to instill within your players while they're under your tutelage?
Well, Harding athletics, and it starts with really the football team. They are big, and we all are big. All the coaches are big on the phrase "honor God." And you will see that all around the athletic facilities. I'm going to give a shout out to our football team. We're in the national semifinals next week. We just won a close 7-6 game against Grand Valley State this Saturday and won a close 35-34 game the week before. We're the farthest we've ever been. I think 2017, they made it to the national semifinals as well. And Coach Simmons is such a great leader of men, and their motto, and it's kind of gone to all of us coaches, is honor God. And so that is our biggest core value. Myself personally, I like to use the words of Colossians 3:17. Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. Giving thanks to God through him. And so that's kind of my core. Now, I will say, I don't live up to that as a coach all the time. Mike Cope a long time ago wrote a book, Living in Two Worlds. And there's the earthly David, Coach Redding, and there's the spiritual Coach Redding. And, sometimes the earthly Coach Redding takes things a little too serious on the tennis court and gets a little too competitive. and so being around other coaches and being at Harding, and having honor God at the top of everything doesn't mean we do things well all the time. But in my case, when I don't do things well all the time, it's very easy for me to ask for forgiveness. And I think that helps to honor God as much as doing everything perfectly, because people can relate to that. And so,
absolutely,
that, and same with my athletes. They're not going to do things well all the time. They're college kids. They're 17 to 21, 22 years old. And so I try to, and they come from all kinds of backgrounds. And, kids that come from Europe, from Germany or Spain or France, they don't have the same values when they get here as we like to have here at Harding. And so there has to be some forgiveness and some learning, a learning curve to that. And so one of the things I try to do is, not come down as very strict right away with behavior, but there's a lot of teachable moments in tennis. Tennis is a very individual sport. I say it's a very narcissistic sport. You're out there by yourself generally, and most good tennis players have come from a background of it all being about them. They're getting accolades all the time. They win tournaments. They get, have their peers that look up to them, and so it's a very narcissistic sport. And so it takes a little bit of time especially to be part of a team, to learn that it's not all about you. And so there's lots of teachable moments in there, and I'm still learning as much as the kids. I will tell you that, Chris.
Yes, aren't we all? I get this feeling that, as in your role, you're probably part-time counselor, part-time coach, part-time preacher, minister, father figure. It's probably hard to balance all of those or to wear that many hats. What is the most difficult part about all of that? And then conversely, what is the most rewarding part about your job?
Well, I'm going to say you're wrong on part-time, all of those aspects, because it's full-time, all of those aspects. I feel like I'm a full-time counselor. I feel like I'm a full-time coach. But what really has helped me is I've got an incredible wife, and she has embraced the idea of being Mrs. Coach. And while she doesn't know a lot about tennis, she knows a lot about people, and she knows a lot about faith and God and relationships. And so she is just a true helper with dealing with all the different personalities, all the different backgrounds that come. As far as the most difficult, taking somebody that comes from a different culture and that may not know about Harding, to basically try to train them that there's another way than what necessarily they know or they grew up with. But that also makes it the most rewarding as well, because when you can see it click, or when you can see somebody do something for a teammate or give up personal glory because they feel somebody else maybe could do a better job or have a different partnership with somebody, and to see the team come together and just kind of be a family is one of the most rewarding things for this old man.
How long do you want to keep doing this, Coach?
When I came 8 years ago, I said I'd probably do it for 10 years. And that's still probably, I haven't necessarily told anybody lately, but if I could go another couple of years, if we're doing really well, there's a chance I would go, and we are doing very well. I could go longer, but I've got some young grandkids. I'm missing my pickleball competitiveness a little bit. So I might have time to do a little more training, but if I can go, a couple more seasons, I'll feel like I've hit my mark. And it's tough for a 60-some-year-old coach necessarily to relate to 18 to 22-year-olds all the time. And so I try to, and I feel like I do a good job with it, but there's probably some that feel like a younger person could do maybe a little bit better job. So So I'm towards the end of my career, I would say, but let's don't put this out on the internet because I'm still going to have to recruit people over the next year or two.
No, as far as anybody knows, you're sticking with this for the foreseeable future.
Exactly. Yeah. Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know when I left coaching and got into ministry, one of the things that I worried about, and really rightfully so, because it was an issue for me, is filling that competitive void and being able to find something that kept my juices flowing when it came to competition and things of that nature. And I know that's, when you talk about retirement, I know that's something that you probably on down the road think about. What is it that gets you up every morning and keeps you fueled? Is it the competition? Is it the, working with the kids? I'm sure it's a bit of all of it, but talk a little bit about that and just your motivation every day to get up and go to work and do this.
Well, I've been competitive all my life. I've been in athletics all my life. Like I told you before at the very beginning, my dad played basketball at Harding, I can't remember a day growing up that I didn't have some kind of ball in my hand or play some kind of sport. And so I've been really fortunate to be able to make not only a living, a good living in athletics, and being a director of tennis for so long and now a tennis coach, and to be able to transfer that to another generation at the same time at a Christian university. And it's more than just forehands and backhands. It's about being an example in everyday life and being able to be around these kids. My wife and I say all the time, we feel a lot younger than we did 5, 6, 7 years ago, just because we're around college age kids most of the day. And so it's very easy it's not as easy because my body's more sore to get up in the morning, but it's easy mentally to get up, to know, what the day brings and who I'm going to be around and the other coaches that I'm going to get to be able to be around. And like you said, when I do put down the tennis racket from a coaching standpoint, pickleball is out there. And so I can get my competitive juices through that. And Kay and I plan to stay in Searcy through retirement. And so I'm going to be a part of the program if Harding lets me, one way or the other. And we will be here. And whether my name has head coach after it, we will be part of the program and hopefully still be able to be a presence in the lives of maybe not just the tennis players, but other athletes and students as well.
Yeah. Well, I know that they are very grateful to have you. I'm grateful that you chose to be with us today on the podcast. I know it kind of hit you out of the blue. You're thinking, podcast? I mean, what is this whole thing about? But you did very well. I told you before we got on, this was going to springboard you into stardom. So, be ready for all the accolades you're going to get for being on the podcast.
Well, you say a lot of truthful things, Chris, but I don't think that's going to be counted as one of them.
I think you're right, but I do appreciate you being on. I appreciate everyone tuning in today. If you have a question specifically for Coach Redding, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com, and I'll make sure that we forward it along to him. If you're somebody that's watching or listening and you have a fantastic son or daughter that plays tennis, then surely we want you to respond as well, right? I mean, this is a good opportunity for that as well.
Hey, you were recruiting anywhere.
That's right, all the time. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Glad to be here today, Chris. I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you. You as well. And thank everyone for tuning in. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris.